Good evening, traders and StockX community members. This is your professor here, live to give you a breakdown of Tesla's Q1 earnings report. Now, we do understand that Tesla has a large cult and definitely many followers of Elon Musk, but we're here to break down the trend and break down the numbers and conclude if Tesla is a worthy investment for long-term purposes or not. Now, the information that we provide, of course, we try to remain on an unbiased method, but of course we want to make sure that you understand the full details regarding Tesla as a stock and what are the key elements of risk. So let's get into the following report. So Tesla reported their Q1 earnings report today, and here are the following numbers. So the earnings per share of Tesla was reported to be at 0.85 cents on a revenue of 23.3 billion. Now, this is slightly off based on the analyst consensus, and analysts expected an EPS of 0.86 on the revenue of 23.78 billion. So Tesla definitely missed their earnings. Now, even though EPS and revenue was a slight miss, that wasn't the biggest problem and the biggest thing that investors had an issue with. The biggest problem came down to Tesla's overall gross margins. Now, last year, and the reason for Tesla's strong stock and movement in the overall market had to do with their overall gross margins compared to the entire industry. So now what we see here is that Tesla last year had gross margins of over 29%. This year they had gross margins of over 19.7%. Now, the greater the gross margin, the greater the company can prosper, because gross margins is definitely very important for manufacturing companies. Now, analysts expected the gross margins to be over 21 to 22%, and because that number wasn't met, that's the reason why Tesla is declining further than the initial losses that incurred prior to the earnings. Now, one thing we also want to go over as well is that Tesla had over 6 price cuts. Okay, so this is definitely a concern because we're starting to see that demand is slowing down on both fronts, and the only way to control it is to keep initiating these price cuts. So far, Tesla has multiple factories around the world, and they continue to invest in their overall production. But because of these multiple price reductions, the overall gross margins are being eaten alive here. And in order to really compensate the loss in the gross margins, Tesla has to increase production and basically develop the economies of scale in order for the profits to maintain and to also to ensure investors that their overall profits remain on an upward trend rather than a downward trend. So definitely the price tag for Tesla as a stock is quite extensive, and it's one thing that we're also looking into. So besides the overall gross margin issue, another foreseeable risk with Tesla has to do with the overall distractions that Elon Musk is currently going through. So with Tesla being a cult following type stock, we got many fans and so forth, and many people that are going to be holding it regardless of the overall outcome because they believe in the stock. There's definitely nothing wrong with that, and everyone should be aware of their own personal risks, but we're starting to see a decline in Elon's interest in Tesla. Ever since the purchase of Twitter happened, we're starting to see Elon get into issues with reporting industries, with Microsoft and other key notable institutions as well. And this is overall leaving a lot of distractions. There still hasn't been a new CEO announced for Twitter, which is a actual problem, because we can see that, ever since the purchase of Twitter happened, we haven't seen Elon really talk about Tesla that frequently. And another thing as well is that in the earnings report, they also mentioned that the Cybertruck production will be happening this year. So we want to see when that will happen and when that will occur, because a lot of things are starting to be delayed on the overall front, and that is definitely concerning investors. So overall, we do not like the overall shape and the trend based on Elon Musk's interest in Tesla, and we need to see an improvement. And the first way to have an improvement is to get a CEO that can pretty much take the legwork from Elon on managing Twitter, and so that he can focus his main efforts on managing Tesla. So based on all this following information, what is the conclusion here? So is Tesla a good investment or not? Now, based on what I know and based on the numbers that we've been reviewing here, we believe Tesla is still pretty much an attractive investment for long-term purposes. However, I do not currently like it at the ongoing prices where it is right now, between 180 and 170. It is down around 3% pre-market, and it may continue to move lower. So if you're a long-term investor and you believe in the company, then it does make sense to hold a stock maybe 5 years or longer. However, they don't offer any dividends, and you can't earn any income on there. One way to definitely earn income is if you're writing covered calls or any sort of options on that, which also has its own separate sort of risks. But if you are considering to hold Tesla, regardless of the fact, then this is what I think. I think that Tesla is an attractive buy, somewhat between 140 to 130. I think if it can get to those levels there, I'll definitely add some equity around those prices, depending on the following news. If there isn't any sort of negative China news or anything like geopolitical risks, and Tesla's at 130, 140, it does make sense to add at that point. Now, if it gets below 100, you want to be very careful in terms of adding equity there, because you don't want to catch a falling knife. If Tesla ever breaks the $100 mark towards the downside in the near future, then there's bigger issues than you want to know. But 130 and 140 area is the best attractive area to buy, on the assumption that there's no sort of geopolitical risks or there's no sort of underlying issues that really affects Tesla's future outlook. So that's what I'll be waiting for, is Tesla to go around that price tag, and I'll definitely keep you guys updated on that as well. And if you guys like this information, please do like and subscribe. Our YouTube channel is relatively new, and we want to provide this education to as many people as possible. So I do really appreciate everyone's support, and we look forward to providing more stock analysis in the near future. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one.